Hi, I'm Kelly Miller. I am a educator, feminist, and campaign manager, and you're watching Atheist Edge.
So finally, the election is in full swing. Which is it's like crunch time, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Today was day 6 of early voting, and I went and waited in line for about 30 to 45 minutes a little bit ago or earlier. I aimed to get up a lot earlier than I actually did, but still. I went and voted. I had to wait in line. Luckily, it was at a community center, so there was a children's soccer game going on that we could watch. Down at we were like on a balcony, and they were playing down on the floor. We're all sitting there rooting for the kids, like, you go.
Yeah.
But it's both. It's very encouraging to see so many people getting out there and voting, especially early voting, because I remember in the primaries in 2016, I got in and got out whenever I voted, and I realize that it's the primaries, so everyone's like, well, it's not as big a deal, but it's like you still have to make sure that you vote and you make sure that you're supporting the candidates that most closely reflect your own views and your own morals and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think a lot of people are so terrified of, well, the lesser of two evils is still evil, but we have Donald Trump right now, and that happened for a reason, and
Yeah.
I hate it so much. But yeah, and I got to see Beto O'Rourke at an event in Dallas last night at Deep Ellum, and it was great. His voice is completely shot, but he gave a really, really great speech, and I've gotten to meet him just once before, but he's really, really great.
Was that down at the door?
It was at Mama Tried at a honky tonk. It was great.
Yeah, I was down at the door. I did a speaking event down there, I guess last weekend. And that's going to be on YouTube at one point. I was just like the MC for Dan Barker.
Nice, yeah.
Which it was, not really that formal, but it was really cool to meet him and be on stage with him, so that was cool.
Yeah, I really wish I'd gotten to go to that. I had to go to class. So I was like, no, I have to miss that.
Well, I had to miss the other speaking event that Beto did because I was doing that, I think. There was an event that he was doing, or a debate that he was in that night, and so I had to miss that.
Yeah, that one, It's like, there's all these things that I want to go to that I have to miss because of class, but it's like, no, I have to make sure that I'm going to class and doing these things.
So to the non-voters who feel kind of apathetic to the process as being too large for them to make a difference in, I guess the main message is snowball.
I mean, you can, as much as you may think that it's not going to make a difference, that no matter what, the people that you don't want to win are going to win, you've got to realize that if enough people change that mindset, then the people that we want to win are going to be the ones that win. And if we get enough momentum and we make sure that we're just pounding the pavement and doing what we can and talking to as many people as possible, and phone banking and blog walking, and please do that stuff.
It is sad the sort of Facebook, Twitter involvement sometimes stops there, of liking something or sharing something, and you feel like you're doing something, so you get your like gold star in your head for being a part of it, but then when that campaign contacts you and texts you and says, hey, can you come volunteer on this day, and you're like, I'm busy.
I don't really want to.
Or like donating to campaigns.
I've donated to campaigns that weren't even people who were going to represent me, just because I liked the candidate so much. And I was like, I like what you have to say. I like who you are. I like what you stand for. I'm going to throw $30 your way. And they tweeted at me and said thank you. So I was like, you're welcome.
That's good. Actually, a friend of mine is a like office manager person or but like has a local location of like, of volunteers, and so she's like a manager of volunteers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I will be down there for that pretty soon, and yeah, I'm stopping the payment and making the calls, and it's exciting. It's exciting to feel like you're actually contributing.
Yeah, and what I really, really love about these midterms is that there's been this surge of minority candidates, you know, like LGBTQ people and people of color and so many women, and it makes me so happy because there's such a desperate need for minority representation in government, in politics, in everything. So it makes me very, very hopeful. It really, really does. So,
yeah. It's important to remember that, you know, that snowball idea of, yes, I feel like I'm a small, insignificant person in this larger system that seems so complicated and we don't know much about it. So as somebody who's actually involved in the process a little bit more, you have kind of an inner knowledge of how these things work, because I know a lot of people, and myself included, I've never been part of an actual campaign, you know, and like how that works, because the idea of the government and you know, even like local officials, they sort of like gloss over as part of this larger system that's like far away and above you and affects your life, and sometimes you are angry at it, but you know, most people I don't think would ever think to like write a letter or do anything more than maybe vote, maybe not, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess as that person who's like on the inside of that, is there any like personal perspective of what it looks like as like these people are still human beings who can be convinced of things and make arguments?
I think to a certain extent there might be some degree of convincing, you know, people on the other side, so to speak, that there's a need to listen to facts and reason and things of that nature. But then you hear from people who just say, well, I know that I said this, you know, like politicians, I know that I said this, but I'm actually going to do that instead. And that's like, you're just a horrible person. You're just awful.
Well, and politics was so much easier to make that argument when there wasn't like a press around, you know, and there wasn't this idea of like one message that would go to everybody, and you could just move from town to town and just pretend like you're going to back these people up on what's important to them, and then change your platform completely in the next town.
Yeah, it was easier to control the message in that sense, and since information moves at such a fast rate these days, you know, somebody says one thing and, you know, in 20 minutes, everybody, you know, on Twitter has heard about it, and a day everybody on Facebook has heard about it, in like 2 years everybody on LinkedIn has heard about it, and something like that. I don't know. Yeah,
so that connectedness has made, you know, a positive kind of holding accountability to public officials to solidify their message and actually make it truthful, or consistent at least,
and hold them accountable.
Right, hold them accountable when they deviate from that. But there's also, you know, the whole internet troll thing.
Yeah, so many people just want to get a rise out of others, and what I find really funny is I'm on Reddit on a regular basis, which is like the cesspool of the internet, and I realize that it really, you know, I have a very carefully cultivated front page that is like feminist subreddits and cute stuff and Texas stuff, and that's about it. And from what I understand, you see these people who had originally started to say these awful things in ironic ways and trying to just troll people. And then you find the people who actually believe that sort of thing, and that stuff's infuriating. That is terrifying. Subreddits that I don't want to specify because But anybody who knows Reddit knows what subreddits I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think there's such a different image when you see people in person of what the demographics actually are and the popularity of certain extreme ideas are. Just because somebody is really loud and bold because of their anonymity and the screen, they can be much more ugly, and they sometimes don't even realize that they're going to be taken seriously online. You know, they're like, oh, I didn't think you would have read that, or I said something really terrible about this person and I didn't think that it would get back to them or affect them in any way. And it can be really difficult to combat this idea of the sort of like mad Twitter mob of angry people who are much more bold when they're behind that screen.
I've had some really, really awful things said to me on Twitter. Really awful. It's usually when I post stuff that's like pro-choice and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm trying not to get into arguments on Twitter anymore, but it's kind of hard sometimes.
Hard. And unfortunately, fortunately, I'm not part of Twitter. I'm not part of even like comment sections. And so I'm
That's
sort
smart.
of, I'm
That's
completely, and it's almost, it's not even by choice. I just don't know how any of it works. So, I'm like in my 20s and I don't know how this works. I have no excuse. But it can be interesting to look at how the opinions of these issues change based on all of these negative things that are coming out, the really far polarized issues of like feminism and Black Lives Matter movement. And to me, they seem a little bit more clear, but then when you get all of these extreme views coming at you and like crazy versions of everything that are small groups but loud groups, it can make it much more confusing to sift through that and to get through your echo chamber of what is coming at you with that algorithm. It's funny because if a Ben Shapiro thing pulls up on my YouTube and I click on it, I'm gonna get some more of that, which is good. It's good because it gets me out of my echo chamber of what I'm doing. But it's really scary when you realize what people on that other side are actually hearing and accepting as true, and how just completely misleading it is. So it's just important to like realize that they are coming from a completely separate realm of reality of what's being talked about, what's important, what the arguments are, because they're just completely different. And I guess that was the problem with the election.
Yeah. And I mean, with the echo chamber stuff and recognizing that you do that to yourself sometimes, but
yeah,
I have a hard time, and I realize that this is just like something that I need to deal with myself, but I have a hard time being able to reach out from my own friend group because I know they're like-minded, and I know that they're going to support the same things that I do, and they're going to be part of the same groups that I am, and things of that nature. And the people that are so anti everything that I stand for, I have such a hard time, like I can't relate to them, so I don't see a point in talking to them.
Right.
And it's, it's a self-imposed sort of thing. So I have a hard time reaching out from that. So I admit to that, though.
Yeah. Well, and it can be really interesting to step outside of that echo chamber and realize how different that world is. Yeah, it's crazy. I remember somebody being at one of our socials, and they had there was somebody there who was talking about Antifa around the Charlottesville terrifying thing. And there was this argument being made online that the anti-fascists were like just as bad, and so I wanted to look up like what that even is, so because in my internet history it showed looking up this term and looking on YouTube, there comes like David Peterson or what is his name, Jordan Peterson,
yeah.
David and Ben Shapiro and all these people, and so it's just like it's really interesting because it did that one search and watching a couple of videos on it to gather like what is this topic and what are they talking about.
Where are they coming from?
Yeah, like, and it was really interesting to look at how different their worldview is. And, you know, when I'm surrounded by my own echo chamber, it's just impossible to get outside of it unless you happen to think of something to look for that is on that other side, because it is so drastically different. So I kept getting like all of these crazy things in my like suggested box, and I was like, oh no, like it's not,
I don't want it.
But what was funny though, they have those hitch slap videos, like the compilations of like, you know, best arguments made by Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, and what's funny is I've always found it funny that the titles of some of these videos are like, you know, 10 times he just like slammed, you know, and it's so like, it is very one-sided, you know, this person is amazing, but it's also like, you know, he's not a Terminator, you know.
Yeah.
But what was hilarious was once I did that Antifa search, I got 10 times Ben Shapiro slammed. And like, you know, just like ripped apart the arguments, and then I look at it and I'm like, no, I didn't, you know.
Like,
And what's funny is I don't know how much of my reaction to that is my own echo chamber just not hearing completely what he's saying,
right.
But it's also, you know, really bad arguments, you know, so you do have to recognize that you're not a completely perfect perspective person, like you have your own biases and your own background, and recognizing that is very important when you're being confronted with information you don't agree with, in order to hear it clearly, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just went on a rant.
No, that's great. That's wonderful. I love it. I have made such a point of steering clear of so many things, and I realize that like I said, that's my own personal stuff and my own personal, you know, dealing with my own little echo chamber. And a small part of me is a little scared to reach out, because I feel like if I'm not actively watching that stuff, then I'm not thinking about everything that people are saying about liberals and about feminists and stuff like that. And I just want to avoid the anger, but then I don't know.
Yeah.
You gotta find a way to make the anger work and make it motivate you, rather than there's one of the podcasts I listen to on a regular basis is Opening Arguments with Thomas Smith and Andrew Torres.
I don't know this.
And it's a
I
law
love finding
podcast.
new great podcasts.
It's a law podcast. So Andrew Torres is a lawyer, and Thomas Smith, I think he's taken like one law-related class, and they talk about law stuff, and Thomas talks about it from, you know, the I guess civilian point of view, and Andrew talks about it from, you know, the legal point of view. And one of their patrons, they read the new patrons and the Hall of Fame patrons who donate a certain amount of money. One of the patrons for a long time was, let this motivate you rather than lead you to despair. And I've always really, really liked that. And it's like, I need to like make it fancy and print it out and put it on in a frame or something.
Yeah. And that actually, that's trying to combat a very real psychological phenomenon that happens in everyone's brain. There was a study done of this, my background's in psychology. So sometimes it's like always translates as like, oh, remember this study? Yeah.
It's like, this relates to this.
Right. It's all connected. Yeah. But so there was a study done of one of those like help an orphan things, and there was a pamphlet with one little girl, her picture in there, and, you know, if you donate this amount of money, then you'll be helping this person, or like it might have been just a general like donate to this to help this child, and so there was a certain percentage of people who were willing to do that in the study, and then there was another group that was given a pamphlet with two children. It was a girl and a boy, and the percentage of willingness to help goes down. And then when you add more and more children, and you make it a larger and larger group, meaning a larger and larger problem, people are less and less willing to contribute to it. And if it's seen as this like general large problem that you can't actually do anything about, then that's what happens, is people get discouraged and they feel like it's such a big problem. How am I even gonna, make a difference at all? And so humanizing it to one person and making it a smaller subset of a problem that you can affect on a personal level, it makes it much more likely that people feel that their contribution will make a difference. And the more and more people feel that way, contribute, it does become this giant difference that really is an actual difference. But it was really interesting, the psychological effect that it has statistically. The more people the larger the problem is perceived to be, the less likely they are to feel like they can.
It gets
contribute.
daunting.
Yeah,
it really does, and that goes back to the whole, why am I going to bother voting if I don't feel like I'm actually making an impression on anything?
Yes.
You've got to be able to just power through that and look, this is how I'm making my own voice heard. I'm doing this. And it's okay to be selfish in the sense of, I want to make sure that my opinion is heard, that my voice is heard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's okay to want to make sure that you are heard as a person.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I think every single person feels, is they want to feel like they are important in some way, or like they're the feeling of validation. I guess it's it's more important to some people than it is to others, but I think it's a very, very human sort of thing. So we just gotta make sure we're heard.
Yeah. I feel like we're sitting getting coffee, just the two of us.
I know.
Just like, talking about.
Everybody's just been all like, this is not as interesting as we thought it would be.
No, I think it's really, really good points. But I just mean, like, it feels so like comfy. I don't know.
It does.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So wrapping up, I guess the central part of all these topics really is about education and having your voice heard. And making sure that you are educating yourself as well as making sure other people are educated too. Right. Making sure that you're trying to combat that echo chamber, but also not letting the really far polarized ideas give you a false sense of what's actually being argued.
Right.
Because I do think that the larger or that more extreme voices, they tend to be taken as the platform of some larger major group that's mainstream.
Right. Yeah.
And that's really interesting. This idea that some social group or some political movement is defined by the worst voices representing that movement. And so it is important to remember that there are a few outliers of these extreme ideas, but if you look at the actual platform of the organization, then you get a sense of what they're actually standing for.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than some bastardized version of it.
Yeah. Like Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
This idea of we want to kill babies and use their cells
for
fetal tissue
for
no,
that doesn't
devil
happen.
worship, and it's
no.
God.
That's not Life Action, you are awful.
But no, it's what 3%?
3%
contributed to abortion.
3% of their services, and it's mean it's privately funded. It's not publicly funded.
And the rest is healthcare.
Yeah.
And education.
Outreach and education.
My contraceptive education was much more extended by YouTube videos funded by Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
Where they had a doctor on there and Lacey Green, who is part of Sex Plus, kind of go over all of these different options and what the levels of accuracy are, and it was just very good. That was after I took a sex education college course, human sexuality, which I still didn't really get all of that information and have it actually sink in. So YouTube has been a really interesting avenue to get a lot of really complicated information in a digestible way. To the masses. And I think our generation, as we grow up, we're going to be more and more accustomed to having our media in this form.
Yeah.
And information in this form.
Readily available.
Yeah. So it's good. We're part of the positive positive mass.
Making a difference.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just go right to plugs. What are you working on lately?
Other than school and American Atheist stuff, Secular Caucus stuff is, like I had said way earlier, probably going to be picking up around the time that legislation is in session. You can search Texas Democratic Secular Caucus on the Googles. We have a Facebook page. I am on Twitter at Motel Cowboy. I'm on Facebook. I have a lot of Facebook friends. If you want to add me on Facebook, it's totally cool. Much else. I'm going to the FFRF convention next weekend.
Ooh.
So I'm very excited for that.
Ooh, where is that?
San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's my first time really traveling by myself.
That's exciting.
So I'm terrified.
Aww.
I'm 31 and I've never done this before.
Yeah. Airports and planes by yourself I really enjoy it. I prefer it. You don't have to worry about anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think one of the first times that I actually made a significant travel to go to a secular event was Reason Rally.
Oh, nice.
In DC.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which was exciting.
That's cool.
So for us, we are having Richard Carrier in town November 11th through the 13th. He'll be doing a pub meet. He'll be doing the Atheist Christian Book Club as well. We'll be doing his book, and he'll be in their studio, answering questions, and they'll probably have some live questions you can ask as well. And then he'll also be in our recording studio around that time, so that's exciting. Let's see. If you want to check out Women of Deconversion, I'm part of that. That's on Secular Hangouts in theirs. That's been such a positive, it's just a bunch of women that get together and talk about.
Awesome.
Yeah, we just talk about issues, and lately we've been doing the 7 Deadly Sins. So it's the first Monday of every month, and so in November, it's so close to Halloween, we decided to do our little Halloween themed one then. So we'll be doing Halloween costumes and talking about lust as our 7 Deadly Sin of that month. So that's exciting because it was quite fitting for the themes of Halloween.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
because everything is just sexy blank.
Right.
for Halloween costumes for
kitties
women.
and witches and oh my god. Yeah. So thank you so much for watching, guys. It's been really fun.
Atheist Edge. Walking the edge of what some consider offensive. But your feelings don't matter here. Only facts. Edgy commentary on the dangers of doctrine, the foibles of faith, the bullshit of belief, the stupidity of superstition, and the idiocy of indoctrination. With razor-sharp wit, curiosity, and critical thought, we take an unblinking look at today's religions. We are Atheist Edge.